アルノルト殿下と一緒に美しい世界を見られるように。
It took Rishi 5 volumes, but she finally figured out that the feelings she had for Arnold were actually love. So we're going to continue from the action part, and honestly it was one of the scenes that I will be very excited to watch once it gets animated. Because imagine Arnold and Rishi fighting bad guys on the stage in front of an audience, and them thinking that they're performing a show. I would also love to see Prince Arnold round-kicking attackers wearing his pretty suit, and Rishi handling the sword like a pro. Then of course there is the teamwork from both of them. I also want to take a moment to talk about the trust Arnold has in Rishi and how Rishi never disappoints him. So the whole plan was that they would trick Sylvia to a safe place and then Rishi would perform in her place. After hearing this plan, Arnold had a look on his face that could sour fresh milk. But after staring at her for a few moments, he sighed and said, "Understood, do as you like." In response, Rishi thanked him, but Raoul on the other hand could not deal with their plans since it clearly put her in danger. He tries to reason with her, but fails, so he turned toward Arnold. "And you, your highness, you're just going to let her walk all over you? What would you do if something happened to your darling little wife while doing something so dangerous?" he asked. In his mid-complaint, Rishi said, "I keep telling you I'm not Prince Arnold's wife yet." He shot her a look that told her that she missed the point. Arnold frowned, lowering his blue eyes. "I'm aware that it's dangerous. I'm also aware that she would not budge on this matter. When she decides to protect someone, she'll see through it no matter what." The prince fixed his gaze on Rishi and straightened his frown. "I figured that out at this point." Not only that, he even let her do as she liked when they were fighting. He let her be on his left side, the one with the scars, and trusted his weaknesses to her. She avoided her enemy's blades, her dress swirling around her. She ducked low and Arnold's sword swung over her head, hitting the enemy. Then Arnold pulled his sword back. Low on the ground now, Rishi spun to sweep the legs out from under another enemy trying to take Arnold's side. And when she was about to stand up, Arnold reached out to her, pulling her to her feet. Enemies came to them from both sides, and they each cut one down. Rishi switched position with Arnold before their enemies even had the time to scream. "It's like I'm dancing with him," she thought, even though orchestra was still playing. Then she thought back to the night where she'd first danced with Arnold. Their back was pressed up against one another even back then. But this time they were up against the enemies. Off topic, but there might be another theory which also include a potential spoiler. So it's from volume 6, where we get to know that Arnold had also inherited some powers from his mother, who was a descendant of a goddess, as we know. So maybe he also see a little fragments of past lives or even the future. There are also rumors that maybe Arnold's mother had put a curse on him and his only savior is Rishi. They might be far stretched, so I don't know. Tell me what you think. Anyways, on to the cheesy and giggling parts. So as I said, the audience thought that it was a performance. And when everything was done, all the enemies were taken care of, Rishi told Arnold that they should have an ending scene because they didn't want the audience to panic. What she basically meant was holding hands and bowing, but instead, Arnold picked her up and lifted her in the air, making the crowd applaud like crazy. He gazed up at her and smiled, evidently enjoying her panic. "I can hardly believe you're the same person who was calmly taking down enemies just a second ago," he teased. Then he lowered her back down onto the stage and kissed the back of her hand, causing another burst through the crowd. But Arnold never changed his expression, simply holding out his hand to Rishi and leading them away from the stage, where they met Sylvia and Guthail again. Rishi apologizes to the song actress, and Arnold finally accepted Guthail as a part of his Imperial Guards. So Arnold is a great partner, a greenest flag like you might have seen. He lets Rishi do whatever she wants, but when it comes to her safety, he isn't making any compromises. That's why shortly after the performance/fight at the theater, when Rishi found herself thinking and panicking about the gift she planned to ask Arnold, well, she helped with the cleanup. He would stop her and ask her about her condition every now and then. Then there was just another moment when they run into one another in an empty hallway behind the stage. He called her name and she jumped when he grabbed her wrist. She tried to simply give him a nod and slip past him like she had been doing, but he must have found her awkwardness suspicious. So he curled his finger around hers, preventing her from making an escape. "You're not pushing yourself, are you?" His touch was so gentle, Rishi found herself strangely preoccupied by it. To make matters worse, he pushed her against the wall, pinning her there. Rishi stuttered, trying to convince him that she was full of energy and she was fine, but Arnold didn't seem to agree. With his one hand, he took hold of her chin and asked in a low voice, "And why are you nervous every time you run into me?" She glanced up at him on impulse and regretted it immediately. Naturally, this was where Rishi would find herself getting lost in the sea of his eyes, but today she found herself staring at his lips. The moment her thoughts turned to the gift again, her cheeks flushed. She was reminded just how insane the thing she planned to ask him was. Noticing her reactions, he lowered his voice even more. "You're not hurt, are you?" he asked again, and she denied again. Then he pointed at the gloves. "You seem to have changed them at some point." Well, that was because her hands were the most likely part of her to get dirty during their work. So she'd switched out the gloves she was borrowing for her own pair, meaning there was no deep reason for that. She tried to explain, but it sounded like a poor excuse even to her ears. Her past recklessness was ruining her credibility here. "If you insist," she begins. She did feel bad for causing him worry, and then closed her eyes and braced herself for inevitable embarrassment. Feel free. Feel free to what?" Arnold asked with a frown. "I figured this would be the only way to get you to believe me. If my words won't convince you," she explained and leaned against the wall, peeking at Arnold. "Please inspect my body in whichever way will satisfy you until you're convinced." Yep, I have officially lost the amount of times she has left him speechless, because Arnold started to say something but then stopped, resting his forehead on Rishi's shoulder and sighing instead. "Would you rather not?" she asked, a little confused, but he stayed quiet, so she continued. "Just so you know, you can't take these gloves off without undoing these ribbons here." Nope, he still didn't say anything. They were long gloves, so the ribbon keeping them on were tied to her upper arms. Still looking gloomy, Arnold reached out for the spot Rishi had specified. His finger brushed the ribbon and untied it in one fluid motion. Then he hooked his finger into the end of the glove and slowly slid it down Rishi's arm. She felt restless. They were just gloves, but Rishi shuddered at the sensation and tried to make her escape, complaining that they tickled. After he was done, he inspected her bare arm, her shoulder, her squishy upper arm, the soft skin on the inside of her elbow, her forearm, waist, and even fingertips. He observed each area carefully to make sure she wasn't wounded, and she regretted the suggestion she'd made at last. Is it just me or the situation embarrassing? His complete silence flustered her all the more. He removed her second gloves now and was checking her other arm. He turned her around and checked the back of her arms too. Eventually, he spun her to face him again. "Is that enough?" she asked. "No." Arnold narrowed his eyes. "I can inspect you in whichever way will satisfy me, until I'm convinced, right?" he asked, and grabbed one of her wrists and pinned her to the wall again. Even if one of her arms was free, Rishi couldn't exactly put up a fight against him. He stroked her cheeks, and she informs him that she was not hurt there, hunching over to escape his ticklish contact. Yet Arnold just said, "I know," and continued. Next, he touched her ear, which tickled even more. He ran his finger across her skin, slowly confirming that she was free of injuries. Then his rough fingers reached somewhere Rishi hadn't been expecting, which was the left side of her neck. It was where she had been hit by the poison arrow in the past, the same place where Arnold had left a mark. There shouldn't have even been a scar anymore, yet Arnold seemed to know exactly where that injury had been. She felt more embarrassed and apologized for worrying him, also promising that she would tell him whatever she is hiding later. But like before, he didn't say anything. Rishi protested, half crying, so he whispered for the last time, "You really haven't pushed yourself at all?" And all Rishi could do was frantically shake her head. He sighed and finally released her hand. Then he brought his lips to her ears again and whispered, "I think we'll make these regular inspections. You shouldn't have told me I could do whatever I wanted." Just as she expected, she said something she shouldn't have, and this was just another one of his punishments. But what sort of face would he make when he finds out that she planned to ask him for an even more inappropriate gift after this? Finally, now to the epilogue, where we'll get to know what she wanted as a gift. So all the mystery and the drama part was over, and in the distance, the church bell rang out just once. "It's your birthday," Arnold said, and Rishi nodded. "The date has changed. Today was the 13th day of the 7th month, the day Rishi was born, and it was her 16th birthday. She had experienced this occasion 7 times now, and Arnold, who couldn't possibly know that, said, "I've never celebrated someone's birthday before," asking her what she wanted from him, as his fingers playfully traced the earring that she wore. "Did you decide what you wish to do?" he asked. Rishi nodded. He obviously get curious. She began by saying that ever since she was a little girl, she always wanted to live a free life, and Arnold let her do that. He doesn't control her or lock her away, and he let her be herself and let her follow her own goals. He even promised to grant her any request that he could. So she said that she was really happy to be his wife. Hearing her, his eyes widened just a little, but she continues, "As your bride, I want our wedding to be perfect. I don't want to shame you, and I want to hold my head up high as the crown princess. She was coming to the point, but Arnold had to clear out that no matter who anyone says, she would be his wife. There was no changing that fact. Still, I wanted to be perfect. Rishi needed courage to finish telling Arnold what it was that she wanted, and I needed great courage to read this scene out loud as well. So, Prince Arnold, she grabbed his hand, which was fiddling with her earring, and squeezed it. Can we please practice the kiss we'll exchange at the ceremony? She spoke, and Arnold just said, "What?" in utter confusion. Rishi thought her voice might tremble from nervousness. As you brought the gift to me, her embarrassment blended with the genuine desire. She gazed up at Arnold and pleaded, "Would you kiss me?" She thought this might have been the first time she had seen Arnold so genuinely surprised. But before he could say more, she frantically blurted, "I know it's a terrible, improper request. I'm so sorry," and grabbed the sleeve of his jacket, squeezing it tight. "I'm just not confident at all that I'll be able to do it well. I realize it's an imposition, but please," she was saying, and Arnold's frown deepened as he choked out, "That's not what I—" Leaving his sentence incomplete, he touched Rishi's shoulder with a pretty look and said, "What are you asking for? You're trembling so much." "This isn't because I'm dreading or afraid of the idea," she told him, but then got ready to let go of this whole thing. However, when she got up from the bench to leave, Arnold held her hand and stood up with her, saying that it wasn't a bother, but she should definitely close her eyes. So he pressed little kisses against her eyelids, which snapped them closed. Now, certain of it, Rishi began to feel lightheaded. She's the one who had requested this, yet she was already almost down for the count. "You don't have to force yourself," he told her, and her eyelid flew wide. She wanted him to do that, no matter what. So looking at him through her lashes, she begged him, and in few seconds, he tilted her neck a bit more. This time, her eyelids fell close on their own, and he wrapped his other arm around her waist, his face near hers. Then their lips finally met. His touch was tender and, as always, full of concern for her. The moment she registered it, there was that familiar pang in her chest again. It lasted only a few seconds. When they pulled away and their eyes locked, Arnold looked to be in pain somehow. "Are you satisfied?" he asked, and she denied. Though her head was a little fuzzy and she felt a bit weak in the knees, but she wanted to practice, and it was gonna take more than just one time to do that. So she tugged gently on Arnold's shirt, and he frowned. While she was in a way of asking another one, he gave her just that, but this time it was a bit more forceful, almost a bite, which felt familiar. It took her by surprise. It was basically just the meeting of the lips and nothing more. Yet the arm around her waist flexed, pulling her closer. When she somehow lost the ability to breathe, she scrunched her face up when Arnold finally pulled away from her. Then he pressed his forehead to hers and apologizes for being that way. Rishi, on the other hand, didn't care. She wanted to learn as much as she could, so she asked for more. And this next one was soft, as if an apology. It was modest, a little more than a peck. They were all so different. She didn't feel like she was getting good practice in it at all, so she asked for more. Arnold's brows come together, and he tugged her even closer. Until she was secured in his arms, he patted her on the back soothingly, saying that they would practice as many times as she likes later, but for now she should breathe. She agrees, burying her face in his chest, focusing on breathing. But she doesn't feel herself being at rest at all. She realized that it had been a good idea to practice. If she had acted like this at the wedding, she'd disgrace herself as the crown princess. He called her name and asked if she was afraid. She shook her head negatively and complimented his voice, saying that she likes it a lot. "But it feels almost painful when you say my name, so it's a bit of a problem," she added. Yet he brushed her hairs away from her ear and pressed his lips to it, murmuring just her name. Now that was just mean, she thought, and in return, he just laughed slightly. She could tell that he was only teasing her, but she still wanted to protest. But the next time he called her name, it was like she was the most precious thing in the world to him. Then, like before, he kissed her bangs and the base of her ring finger and tilted her head back. Rishi tried to wipe her wet eyelashes, saying, "I'm so sorry. I can't believe I'm doing this when I'm the one who asked." But Arnold took hold of her hand before she could drop her eyes. He looked her in the eye and whispered, "It's cute. You don't need to hide it." Rishi was astonished. The unexpected words made her ears burn, but Arnold was, of course, unflappable as always. Then again, his eyes and his voice, however, were kinder than usual. "Oh, I can't think of a single time you weren't cute," he said, and she had no idea how to respond to that. She really wanted to hide her face now, but with neither hand free, all she could do was bury her face in his neck. He let go of her right hand and called her name again. She had just told him that it was a problem for her when he did that, yet he showed absolutely no remorse for his behavior. If anything, he was just rubbing salt in her wounds. "Is it painful?" he asked. "It's painful, but not because of you," she wanted to tell him, but she couldn't. So instead, she inhaled a shaky breath. Her lashes were still wet, so he gently wiped her tears away and asked if it frightens her. They don't have to do it at the wedding. He said that he will change whatever part of the ceremony needed changing, no matter who objects. But Rishi was determined. She says, "I don't want any part of my vows as your wife missing." She felt like a new beat was pulsing in her heart now. Putting a name to the sensation she was feeling for the first time in her life, Rishi closed her wet eyes, saying, "Please kiss me, my husband." And like the great partner he is, he said, "Okay," holding her cheek with other hand and intertwining their fingers. She contemplated her thoughts, finally admitting to herself that she was in fact in love with Prince Arnold. And in that instant, they shared another soft kiss. I honestly love how far they have come, and there are just 2 more volumes left. I kind of don't want it to end, but at the same time, I want answers, so the ending is definitely going to be bittersweet for me. Alright, that was it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening to me. Take care of yourself and goodbye.
I don't really wanna hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change.